So she is a brainiac of a college student. Big brains. She's very studious. She's valedictorian. She's top of her class. She's kind of just this all-American girl. And she's been suffering from nightmares that have been preventing her from reaching her potential as of late. And she kind of becomes like this action hero kind of girl. I was a huge fan. I remember being introduced to this franchise through one of my childhood friends who was like this horror fan. And I think as a child I really liked to pretend that I was. I think I just wanted to look cool in front of my friends, but I would go home at night and cry to my mom and be like, I can't sleep. But these movies had a huge impact on just me growing up through my elementary school years. So many people have been reaching out to me, like people that I know, people that I don't know, sending me pictures of log trucks. So I think as a whole, everybody has been kind of traumatized by that logging truck incident and all of the other crazy deaths that happened. I think what really set this cast apart from anything that I've ever worked on was that we were able to meet in rehearsals prior to our first day on set. And we were able to come in and kind of workshop the scenes with Adam and Zach and Sheila and Craig and just kind of find out who we were, personally in real life, but also what we could bring from our lives into these characters. And it was kind of it felt like speed dating almost, because we were all just in this room for a week, getting to know each other, saying how we would act, or talking about how we would behave in these certain circumstances, and then kind of switching things to make them more our own. And it was really like a crash course on learning all of these people, which was lovely, because when do you ever get that? I don't think I've ever had that in my life. So yeah, it was really great. We really all do seem to operate as a family. Everybody is so silly, and it's just great. It's great. I can't even to be specific about it. I remember meeting Teo for the first time and being like, "Wow, this is my brother," and he really does feel like a brother to me. I do have a younger brother. But the two of them are so polar opposite, which I find is so interesting. But I still do have those older sister instincts to just protect and make sure he's okay. And also he says silly jokes all the time, and I have to roll my eyes and laugh. But he's great. I do love him. I feel so honored to be in this position, in the place that I am, with all of these people, telling this story in kind of a reimagining of what Final Destination is in this specific way, because I come from a huge family, and family morals are huge for me. So to do a Final Destination movie about a family is so, scary, first of all, because, you imagine this happening to your family. But I think what's so interesting about this one is that it's the way that they've reimagined this. There's so much heart and soul in this one, because the connections are deeper and because it's family, that it feels less like a horror movie and more about a coming-of-age story of a family trying to make it through a hard time.
Final Destination 6 is a continuation of people escaping death, but more specifically how it can be passed along to bloodlines. And if your ancestors escape death and have you, then it'll also come after you, because you're also not supposed to be alive. Iris is wearing a beautiful period proper blue dress. It was handmade so it could be as period accurate as possible. A lot of people walking around set call it movie 1 and movie 2, the 1969 movie and the modern day movie, because they do feel so different. And I feel like wardrobe is a huge part of that. When you walk on set, you can immediately tell which movie we're filming, strictly off of wardrobe. I have to say, because of all the beautiful period accurate styling and costumes, it definitely helped me get into character. I worked with Ali Larder. She played my mom in a film a couple of years ago, and she's she's in the first 2 Final Destinations. And I remember hearing her talk about them, and I was just like asking, how did they do the airplane scene? Was it scary? Da 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 da. And now to get to be a part of it, it was very fun to text her and be like, hey, I'm following in your footsteps, and I just got cast in the new Final Destination.
Charlie's personality at the start of the movie is a very closed off, but sort of wanting affection from those who have left him at the start of the movie. His personality, but underneath all that, he's a fun, he's just a regular teenager who gets sort of shoved into this horrible situation. But I was a huge fan of the Final Destination franchise. The third movie is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. The fifth movie's great. The bridge sequence is so iconic. The highway sequence in the second's also so iconic. And Devon Sawa, the lead in the first movie, played my father in the Chucky television show a few years ago. So that was cool. He was the first person I texted. He was so excited. It was really cool. Then we got dinner a few months later, and he regaled me with all the stories from filming and how like I think talking to him made me realize how crazy this franchise is, and how strong the fan base is, and the ride I was in for. This movie is very much about family in a way that none of the other movies were, and it's really funny and it's really relatable. The fact that they're doing almost everything practically, I think, is gonna really translate into the finished product. And it's gonna look awesome. It's gonna be brutal. It's gonna be spectacular. It's gonna be very Final Destination, and I'm really psyched for it. Audiences should look forward to another Final Destination movie, but a fresh new take on it, a new kind of new kinds of relationships for these characters that we've never seen in any other Final Destination before. Death has never gone after a family, but also at the same time it's going to have that classic Final Destination 6 brutality.
Erik is he's a bit of a wild card. He's a fun guy. I love playing him. He's covered in tattoos, which we just have taken off right now. Tattoos, piercings. He is what would seem to be a bit of like a horror movie trope of like the heavy metal, that kind of guy. But the thing that I love so much about him is that he really cares about his family, and he's got a bit of like a soft side to him on the inside. He can be a bit of a off-putting person to some, but with his family, he just cares about them so deeply, and I think that's what I love playing about him. I think what's different about this Final Destination is it really focuses so much on the familial aspect of it. It being so heavily related in family, you get to know these characters not better than the other ones before, because I think they did a great job with that as well on those, but you get to know them in the way that only family members get to know people, not just friends or lovers or anything like that. You're just getting to know the down, dirty secrets of this family. I think the other thing that sets it apart from the other ones is it obviously takes place in 2 different timelines, starting in the 60s and coming all the way to the present day, which I thought was so cool. That's depending on what day we're filming this movie, some days it's just a completely different movie. Part of the time, they'd shot a completely different movie than the one that I've shot here as well. It's like hard to think of anything else to say, but I'm thrilled to be a part of the legacy. As a massive horror movie fan, I've done a bunch of horror movies in my life, and I'm so proud of all of those, but to put like my stamp on part of like the history of horror, like this Final Destination, it's massive. It's incredible.
He's one of the cousins, so he's one of, I think, 3 cousins to Stefani and Charlie. I don't know, he's like a big softy, a big goofy guy that's super anxious. I always play the anxious guys, I don't know why. And yeah, it's just a sweetheart. So it follows Stefani Reyes as she has a premonition, like they all do. But this one's a little different. So, she tries to come and save her family and convince them that they need to follow her and listen to her in order to live. But while she's doing that, there's kind of a parallel of her trying to figure everything else out and kind of put together the clues that are like within the premonition that kind of solve the mystery of the whole, Final Destination universe. The fact that I get to be in one that's like, the following is so intense. It's like a cult following. Everyone loves it. It's really exciting to be able to like step into that world and be a part of it now, be a part of like Final Destination family forever. And, I just hope we make the fans happy and we make people proud to have another movie.
Julia is Stefani's cousin, and so she's one of the Campbell family, which means, I guess, she's not supposed to exist like the rest of them. She's in death's path. She's in danger. So, she's Stefani's cousin, member of the family. 2 brothers, older brother Erik, younger brother Bobby. I think she's super, I see her as very loyal. She's very protective of her family, I think. So I think for her, when Stefani starts kind of going off the rails and saying that death is coming to get them, I think she's really, really skeptical of that. She's definitely kind of rolling her eyes at the whole thing, I think. Although, I guess you find out that death is the only thing you should not roll your eyes at, probably. The movie is about this young woman, Stefani, who starts having these nightmares, and she starts digging into the past to figure out why she might be having them. And then she sort of uncovers this very classic Final Destination plot of death, coming for a group of survivors. It's just that the group of survivors has gone on for so long that it's been decades and decades of death coming for the people that survived the Skyview disaster. So, it's about her realization that her family is next, her mother is next, her cousins and her uncle are next, and what she has to do to try to protect her family. Obviously, every Final Destination film has to open with a giant scene like this. I bet if you ask the creators themselves, they would say they've outdone themselves this time, because it is we refer to them as 2 separate movies entirely, because the whole Skyview opening is so involved and so intense. And I think as soon as you see the Skyview Tower, you're like, okay, people will be falling to their deaths. It's just a question of how many. I love my castmates. I love Kaitlyn and I feel like just had an understanding right away. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just meet someone and you're like, I feel like we've been friends forever. And that's how I feel about Kaitlyn. And then similar, I think, with Richard and Owen, it's in some ways they feel I have brothers in real life, and in some ways they already kind of felt like my actual brothers. And so it was really easy, right away, I think, both just hanging out, everyone has a great vibe.
One of the things I love about this movie is that there are 3 generations of women, and there's my mother, Iris, there's me, and then there's Kaitlyn's character, Stefani, and the mother-daughter lines connect and blur in the patterns, and that's who Darlene is. It's such an eclectic, mixed age group of people, and we've all kind of found this. We have this really great chemistry together. We have just an ease and a complete support. And I think that will read on screen. I think you will feel that, and that's just good casting and total luck. I think they put together really right people for parts, but I also think, the chemistry you don't know until, none of us read together until we were here. But suddenly we're here and we have this, I could watch Richard and Owen together. First of all, they're hilarious. But they have this play back and forth that's so great, right? And Kaitlyn and Teo feel like brother and sister to me. It's been really fun to watch. I think that Zach and Adam bring, they're bringing a new take. I think that's what this is. I think that's what they're trying to do with this. This is a new generation. It's a reinvention of this series. And I think they're coming at it with a real desire to have all of these genres exist in this one movie and bring a real complication and accept, weave that in as a real part of this. I think they're bringing fresh eyes.
So Marty is an earnest dad who's just trying to take care of his family, divorced for a long time, and is really just trying to do his best as a single dad. Yeah, I think that's kind of what's really interesting about the movie is that it takes that original conceit and then it just goes deeper into it, right? So there's more kind of questions about how it works and why it works and then who's next and why they're next or are they next? And maybe they're not next. So yeah, I think that's the fun part of it. But that's what struck me the most about the truth of these premonitions is that we all have them, right? And we don't, but they obviously generally don't come true. But I think it does tap into something that we all feel all the time, and perhaps don't like consciously like have it concrete in us, but we're definitely feeling it all the time. And I think that's what's probably the most fun thing about these movies is that they really like dig into that and make you fearful of it.
So Final Destination 6 is full of what we all expect in these Final Destination movies, which is lots of blood, lots of gore, lots of very exciting deaths. And that sounds so wrong to say, exciting deaths, but they're pretty epic in this movie. My goodness, I am blown away every day by what I see. And today we are filming the death of somebody very close to me. That's all I'm going to say. This Final Destination is a lot about family. So I play Aunt Brenda, married to Howard, who we have 3 children. The eldest is Erik, then there's Julia, and Bobby is our youngest. They are all different and very interesting characters who have fabulous personalities. And then there are the cousins. We're considered the cousins in the script because the main family is Kaitlyn and Charlie, and their dad, Marty, is my brother-in-law. I'm not gonna lie, when I auditioned for this movie, I was super excited because everybody knows the Final Destination movies, but they go back 25 years. And I remember the very, very first one, and I remember seeing it in the movie theater and just falling in love. And to have the chance to even read for it was epic.
Okay, well, honestly, I think Final Destination 6 Bloodlines, it's about family. It really is, because you look at the themes throughout it. It's all about trying to connect with family, reconnect with family, preserve the family, keep the family alive together, and to really, I think my character says it all. Life's short, and let's just enjoy the time that we have, and let's spend it together. And that for me is everything. That's my character's through line. It's been one of the best experiences I've ever had because, there's a whole journey through this film for everybody. Everybody's got a real through line and just a huge arcing story. So it's really rare, and it feels really truthful and real. Zach and Adam are great. I've known Zach particularly for 20 plus years. I think we met a million years ago. It feels like now, but him and Adam, they're like a lot of the director duos that we know of. They really it's like 2 halves of the same brain, and they keep filling in for each other, or they have a thought and they share that, and then they know to stand by and just if everything's been said by Adam or by Zach, the other one just sort of doesn't say anything. But if they want to share a little minutia of something, then yeah, they come in and do that. But it's really cool because I think you get a balanced approach to the direction of the movie. It's been great. Yeah.
It's been really cool to see, how much attention to detail has gone into this. I imagine maybe we would just be using a restaurant somewhere in town, but they've recreated not just one, but multiple versions of this entire rotating restaurant with the whole micro LEDs surrounding it and an immense amount of background performers. And, down to like the food is entirely real, and there's the flambe chef and the seafood chef and the barman, and the whole spread of it's been fabulous, and doing really cool one-er shots through the crowd, and the coordination of it, you can tell they put so much time into planning every little piece of it that it's felt so easy and flawless, kind of like walking into a play that's already been choreographed for you. How I would describe it is that it's the guy in Titanic, if anyone remembers, who's hanging off the edge of the boat when it's going down, and he lets go and he hits the propeller and then spin pinwheels to the water. It feels a bit kind of like that as far as we're dancing, we're having a great time, and then the glass dance floor essentially shatters out. They've really pulled out of the stops and making it a very realistic portrayal of what that horror will look like, and I think people will be terrified of glass dance floors the rest of their life. Anytime I've told somebody this is what I'm working on, how do you die is all they want to know, obviously, and I'm like, well, wait to find out. Working with Brec's been great. She's a lot of fun. She's kind of comes to set every day with a lot of energy. Building kind of a natural chemistry together of two people who've, obviously fallen in love and are ready to start their life together. It's always kind of nerve-wracking getting on a set. Now you've just met somebody and you have to kind of create this whole backstory, but it's been really easy. We have a nice shorthand with each other and, get along quite well.
Final Destination really brings to life anxieties that everyone experiences. Everyone has those intrusive thoughts where they think, ooh, what if I step out into the middle of the road and, something falls off a truck and takes my head off?
That's not going to happen.
Everyone has those anxious thoughts throughout their daily life, but it taps into the fear of like, what if that was real? Final Destination taps into that fear of what if those anxious thoughts were brought to life. And the other part of it that I think people really relate to is the idea of fate and the idea of, can you change your life's path, or are you fated to go on this railroad track to follow this path that's been set out for you? So Final Destination really taps into those, philosophical level of thoughts that everyone has. One of the most exciting things about making this movie was all the practical effects and stunts we were able to do. The team, the producers, the studio was really excited to do as much of this movie practically right in front of our eyes as we could imagine in order to really, bring the epic scope of this movie to life. The crazy thing about Final Destination, it was, the first movie came out 25 years ago. And even the last movie came out, was it 13 years ago? Mm-hmm. And so it's been a while. But at the same time, I think current kids, teenagers and stuff, have discovered it, especially on YouTube. There's so many videos analyzing all the Final Destination deaths, or how you could have cheated death in Final Destination 2, or the best kills ranked from Final Destination. So I think a lot of...
Or just videos of things that have happened in the real life being posted
true.
On YouTube saying, look what happened, this is from Final Destination.
Yeah, my real life Final Destination moment. So FD has kind of lived on in the public dialogue, even though it's been so many years since the last movie. And I think, people who weren't even alive when the first movie came out know the franchise from YouTube and from the other online stuff. And, we're really excited to make this movie for them too.
There's a lot of people we're excited to traumatize. The cast in this film is really unique when you look at all the other Final Destination films. A lot of the other films, it's 6 or 7 young, pretty people who find themselves in a bad situation and they all die one by one, which is great. But in this film, we have an entire family. We have a character who's 16 all the way to a character who's, in their late 70s. And together as a group, they have to survive death coming after them. And so what's really cool is seeing the dynamics of all those different age groups, all marked for death, all kind of working together. And we had to find cast that could all work as a family, which is even more challenging than in the other films. Not only did we have to find amazing actors that all feel unique and grounded and relatable, but they all had to work together as a family that you would believe has that kind of chemistry and history of all having been together for a really long time. One of the great pleasures of making this film was working with Rachel, our production designer, because it was a humongous challenge to make these really unique environments, but also make them iconic to the franchise and memorable, as a lot of the locations are in the previous films. And she really brought an incredible eye of design, but also a love of the franchise, to find all sorts of different ways of building omens into the actual designs of the world themselves. One of the key ideas that we all fell in love with was this idea that circles kill. And it's a great drinking game if you want to watch the film on your third or fourth viewing and take a swig every time you see a circle. But death represents itself in a lot of ways by a circle, because fate comes back around and you can't escape it, and there's all these ways that we brought a round shape into the design of the entire film.
One thing about franchises that have been around as long as Final Destination have been around is there's a tendency to repeat yourself. There's a tendency to go to the tried and true. And while we still preserve the central premise of Final Destination, what Jon Watts did was bring an entirely different sort of perspective to it, and a way into that premise that was both fresh and original and emotional. And I think it's one of the reasons why the studio got so excited about making another one of these movies. Working with Zach and Adam on this movie has really demonstrated their complete control over the process of making movies. They prepare painstakingly. They're super prepared. They have a length and breadth of knowledge of filmmaking that they bring to bear every single day. But you match that with this desire to create a sense of family on set. They really establish the tone. It's very open. It's very communicative. They want to have people contribute to this thing and feel like they are contributing, which is why I think we have such a great assembled team together, because they really do feel like they're part of something special, and that's being sort of led by the tone that Zach and Adam have set from the get-go. I think there are two reasons why Final Destination has such a strong fan base. One, the movies are just effective. Like, you really do have a fun time going to see these movies, and it's a community event. It's a community sport to go watch a Final Destination movie. The other thing I think that has generated even more fans outside of its initial run of the movies is, quite frankly, the rise of internet culture. We have become, and I'm grateful for this, sort of like a meme. There's Final Destination has become like saying Xerox. It's the same thing for having a near-death experience. That's a Final Destination experience. We've become a hashtag. This is an opportunity for them to see their own Final Destination in a theatrical experience. This is their first real Final Destination experience in a theater. That is one of the reasons why I think the fans are so excited, because they're getting something that is going to be singularly their own as we reboot this franchise and bring the fans with us into the next generation. We're super excited to be releasing Final Destination 6 in IMAX. I think when you go into the world of Final Destination through the lens of an IMAX movie, it is that much more immersive, that much more terrifying, and that much more fun. What I'm very excited about as well is that the filmmakers have really adapted to what IMAX offers, and they are really integrating it intelligently throughout the movie, so that when IMAX comes and the aspect ratio changes, you know death is coming. So there's going to be an anticipation in the audience as they're watching the movie, and the screen starts to shift. They're like, okay, strap in, here we go. And that's just another tool in the toolbox that makes these Final Destination movies so successful. We take great pains to have a practical foundation for both makeup effects, for special effects, for anything physical, so that the audience doesn't have a chance to take the sort of emotional off-ramp of, that's just CG. That doesn't work. No, we really, hopefully, the audience will appreciate the amount of work and time that has gone into giving them true practical effects in this day and age of digital wonderment.
The sixth installment of Final Destination was something that we were thrilled to even get the call about, but the way it came together for us was one of the most pleasant surprises. There's nothing better than having a studio call you and say, hey. The biggest thing that they were saying was, we want to make sure it's not a full reboot, but it's more just sort of like a freshen up, because it's been such an amazing, sort of stalwart, loved franchise. There's no reason to completely overhaul it, but let's figure out a way to modernize it and take it into this century. And in all of that, one of our favorite filmmakers in the world, we find out, is a super fan, which is Jon Watts, who a lot of people know from all the Spider-Man movies and whatnot. So when you learn somebody like Jon Watts is a super fan, it makes things, really happy to get back together again and kick off the franchise. So if someone was asking me, like, what is happening with Final Destination 6? What is Final Destination 6 about? I mean, for me, one of the ways I would describe it is it's It's questioning what really makes a family. And it's questioning what brings family back together after a series of all sorts of traumatic events. And I'll leave you to imagine what those traumatic events might be. But it also unpacks sort of the truth about what it's like to have a giant family and all the crazy drama, but all the crazy love that comes with that family. I'm beyond excited to be making a movie that's theatrical, and also beyond excited to make a movie that's IMAX. So we feel lucky on every front. But yes, if we had a chance to make more, it's very hard. I will be honest, it's super hard to find everyday things that we can ruin for everybody out there. Like it gets trickier every year. Like there's only so many bus hits you can do. There's only so many escalators you can kill someone on. You come to see Final Destination 6, whether you're a fan of the franchise or you're new to the franchise, one of the things that everybody talks about with Final Destination is, you go for the kills, everything else, but in this one, we decided to plus it up. We felt like the challenge was on us to make the characters and the story as engaging as the kills. And it was on us to figure out a way to help you get so invested in these characters that the play-along factor for how they might die was going to be amped up that much more.